So much like the all-female flyover ahead of the Super Bowl, my losers of the week this week are all female, sorta, so let's get into it. Here's the deal, folks. I'm not an Eagles fan, or a Chiefs fan, or a football fan for that matter, but I was rooting for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl for one reason, and one reason only: this woman. Patrick Mahomes is a truly gifted athlete and by all accounts a great guy. Why he chose to saddle himself with her is beyond me. He is the MVP, she is the MAW, most annoying wife maybe of all time. And she's at it again, this time demanding an apology from those who underestimated her husband's team. Well, I demand an apology from the person at Twitter who gave this woman a blue check. Brittany Mahomes is the sports wife equivalent of Joy Behar, and that's not a compliment. We've heard more out of her during Patrick's career, again, let me reiterate, Patrick's career, than we've heard out of every other wife or girlfriend in the league combined. We've seen Brittany Mahomes thrust her no-talent self into the spotlight 20 times more than freaking Giselle, an actual celebrity with actual talent. Thank God football season is over. Maybe she will go into hibernation or just for the love of God, shut the heck up. But moving on to loser 2, local Florida First Coast news reporter Atia Collins, who was caught on a hot mic during a live stream event in Jacksonville, bragging to someone about her duty to make Governor Ron DeSantis uncomfortable. Collins was also heard saying that her boss had instructed her to just run up to him and yell questions at DeSantis during the event. Classy and professional. Well, the governor's rapid response director was quick to jump on this little revelation, tweeting, quote, "A journalist's job is to tell the truth. Of course, speaking truth to power can make the powerful uncomfortable, but discomfort shouldn't be the goal. The goal should be revealing the truth. Pushing biased narratives with the express goal to create discomfort isn't journalism," end quote. And she's correct on every count. Folks, journalism is dead, and that's the truth. And it's been dead since election night, November 2016. Embrace yourselves, because if we should be so lucky as to get a presidential announcement from Ron DeSantis, the fake news media will be on him like bloodthirsty vultures. The liberal hacks don't care about the truth, they care about the agenda. They coddle Democrats and demonize Republicans, and they do it all without knowing the first rule of journalism: the mic is always on. But on to my last loser of the week, a man who I wish did not have a microphone at all, Dylan Mulvaney. Why this thing is famous, I am still not sure, but here he is demeaning actual women and threatening to steal your man.
335 of being a girl, and I wanted to go on record to say that this might be the hottest I've ever looked and will ever look in my lifetime. And I'm making this video so that in thousands of years, there will be evidence. Is it the dress? It could be the dress. Is it the makeup? Or is it the hair? Because I think it's the extensions. And when I have extensions in, I don't know my name. I don't know where I live. I just know that I love these. And I know that I look like I could steal a husband, but I want to promise you, look me in the eyes. I want to promise you that I would never do that to you. Okay, I am a girl's girl. And I love ya. Woo! But seriously, this is good, right?
So I asked my husband, and luckily he reassured me I am 1,000,000% safe from having Dylan Mulvaney steal him from me. And as it turns out, most straight men aren't into women with male genitalia, so who knew? Folks, this boy girl is a clown, and no amount of makeup or hair extensions is going to change that. I don't really care that he's trans or aspires to be trans, but I do take issue with the way he reduces women, actual women, to bimbos who only care about outfits, hair, and makeup. It's freaking insulting. This is the kind of crap your kids are watching on TikTok, parents, just a heads up. Those are my losers of the week, 2.5 females in all their glory. But just to round it out, let me add one more as an honorable mention.
That played a greater strength, some where he probably isn't as strong, etc.
I will tell you this, the president is the best communicator that we have in the White House.
Well, we're screwed. Take it in, soak it up, pray for us all. But still ahead, look up and you may very well see a UFO in the sky thanks to our weak president. U.S. forces shot down 4 objects in the last 10 days, 2 of which were in Montana airspace, and the president hasn't addressed the nation on one of them. But my next guest has been briefed and he's fired up. Montana Congressman Ryan Zinke joins me next. In the last past 10 days, U.S. forces have shot down one spy balloon and 3 other still unidentified objects. 2 of these objects were over Montana airspace. And let's not forget, the main reason Biden had to address even the 3 bus-sized spy balloon was because a reporter from the local Billings Gazette snapped a photo of it and asked, what the hell is this? But where is our president and commander-in-chief in all of this? Bueller. I guess objects in our airspace just aren't a concern for Ice Cream Joe. But my next guest has been briefed on these objects, and given at least 2 of them were over his state, he's pretty fired up. Joining me now is former Navy SEAL and Montana Congressman Ryan Zinke. Congressman, it's great to see you. I don't know if you recall, but I did have you back on my show at the Blaze, so it's great to see you again.
Absolutely, and great to be with you again. This is really quite something. Right. First of all, I don't mind, being lied to by China because I don't expect the truth ever. So when China says it's a civilian air balloon, that's really not true. Right. But what I am offended on is our administration, when our administration is not telling us the truth. And let's walk through some of the big ones. Right. The first one was, well, we took immediate action. How could you take immediate action when it drifts all the way through the Aleutian chain, through Canada on the first one, and then meanders across America, going through and across and above our nuclear sites, right? So then they say, well, we didn't down it because we were concerned for collateral damage in the ground. Let's get real. Petroleum County has 434 good citizens. That is less than the United States House of Representatives. And the chance of hitting something is far greater with boat traffic off of Myrtle Beach. Mm-hmm. And then the big whopper is, let's blame it on Trump. It's like you go through the spin cycle. Number one, that's always blame it on Trump. And I can guarantee you, I was Secretary of Interior. Does anyone recall a balloon the size of 3 buses meandering across the U.S.? And then they said we took immediate action. The first thing is, hey, Governor of Montana, how about saying, Governor, you got a balloon coming across your state? But they didn't take any action. I'm glad to see that it shot something down, but this is a pattern. Tommy, this is a pattern from the beginning of Afghanistan. When you don't lead from the front, you follow from the rear. We blew up Afghanistan. That colossal blunder, I think, gave Putin a green light for Ukraine. We have no plan in Ukraine. We don't have a supply system that works. We're beholden to China. We can't even figure out baby food. And look, if we can't figure out a balloon, then how are we going to figure out and defend Taiwan? So this has just been one series. What I'm hoping the president says today is, number one, any object that's in our airspace, we will target, identify, and destroy. We will enact the Monroe Doctrine and do the same thing for our neighbors and allies and friends to the South. And we're not going to take it anymore from China. We're going to make sure that critical components of our economy are manufactured and made in Montana. And quite frankly, I don't think this president's up to the challenge.
So I want to go back to some of these other objects because while most of America was focused on the Super Bowl, I was in New York and I was on Fox News on the big Sunday show, and we were saying one object was shot down. There's another object shot down. They closed airspace over Montana. All right, another object over Lake Huron. I mean, it was one after the other after the other. And we still don't know what these objects were, which really confuses me that we don't know the difference between a university research object and what could be a spy apparatus. Was it from China? Was it from Russia? Was it from a university? Was it a weather balloon? The fact that we don't have those answers, I know we have the best military in the world, but to me, it's either they really don't know, which is a problem, or they do know and they're not telling us. I know that you've been briefed on this. What can you tell the American people that are still largely in the dark?
Well, a lot of it, we just weren't looking. A lot of our radars were not configured for slow flying, lumbering objects. We were configured for the big bears coming across and fast, formations. So we retuned. But also you look at the pattern, right? We have to take action. And this administration is famous for taking no action. So, I commend now, we're looking in the north. We've improved our gaps on it. But we should be aggressive because balloons themselves, what can they do? balloons can actually carry a payload of some awful dangerous things. One of them is EMP, electronic magnetic pulse. We live in an economy that chips and, our electrical grid, et cetera, is all exposed and vulnerable to such devices, which can be carried by a balloon. So we need to take it serious. And quite frankly, it was deer in the headlights for a long time, not taking it serious. So I'm glad the military is looking now, but we need to defend our airspace. At the end of the day, it's a threat. We need to, again, identify the objects and then destroy them that could cause harm to our airspace.
Yeah, and this administration's lack of transparency, as you mentioned, has been very frustrating. But it's not just the spy balloons or the UFOs. They could be possibly aliens, or they say that they're not aliens. I mean, there's a lot that's piling up here. I want to go to Ohio now, because this is another giant concern. We've got our transportation secretary who sent out a few tweets on the matter. They're not on the ground. They're not paying attention to this issue. You've got people in Ohio that are breathing toxic chemicals. We just passed a huge $1 trillion infrastructure bill, and a lot of Americans are thinking, we're spending billions of dollars in Ukraine, but we can't help the people of Ohio? I mean, it feels a lot like a dereliction of duty at best.
Well, all right. Let's look at the Secretary of Transportation. There's actions that should have immediately been taken. They weren't. Yeah, as you point out, where's the administration? Where was the Secretary of Transportation during the supply chain crisis? Remember, he took paternity leave in the middle of it, and then went back and then dressed and simulated a birth. I mean, come on, let's get serious. And we have problems in this country, but they need to be addressed. And I think the chemical spill in Ohio is very, very serious. There's decisions that were made that look like it put more people at risk. And quite frankly, a lot of times they're in the dark. They shouldn't be in the dark. This is a big problem that has potential catastrophic effects to it. Yeah, you have an enormous amount of toxic material going in the atmosphere. No doubt it's harmful, but we got to be on top of this. This is in our backyard. So we should send every resource to make sure that it's cleaned up properly, that people aren't at risk. We got to figure these things out. And it seems like the Biden administration is always sleepy.
Well, they certainly are. He's either sleeping or he's noshing on an ice cream cone, one or the other, or he's on vacation, which is happening quite frequently lately. I want to turn back to China, though, because I'm from South Dakota. You're in Montana. It's very concerning to me as a South Dakotan and a Dakotan that the Chinese are looking to buy up so much farmland in the U.S. We've got Bill Gates that's bought a lot of farmland, but then you got China trying to buy a lot of farmland, and it's very concerning. As somebody that is in the heartland, which we are often flown over, especially by spy balloons, what would you say to Americans that don't see a concern with China buying up so much of this land or being allowed to even survey it?
Well, we need to articulate why it's a concern. Number one, taking land out of production is a problem. It's a national security concern. Having a foreign entity, whether it's an adversary or an ally, buy property, especially adjacent to our missile sites and military bases, that should be a non-starter. Zero. But it seems like all the crumbs to China are leading to the White House, and I don't know why there isn't a reason, why we don't take a stronger position against China, but we need to. And look at the EV world. We grew up where EV doesn't really work in cold weather, but we're actually becoming more vulnerable to China because where are the batteries made? Where are the critical minerals that are necessary to make the battery? Lithium, cadmium, et cetera, et cetera. All those are Chinese, either controlled or processed in China. The chips are, the solar cells. Again, we are transferring our vulnerability to China. And this is the irony of it, is that the moment we become energy independent, moving to energy dominance. When I was secretary and came in, we were 8.3 million barrels a day in production and declining. In 2 short years, if you let America run as we should, we were 12.5 million barrels. We were the world's largest exporter of energy. We did it by lowering emissions because no one does it cleaner, better, more efficiently than we do. We weren't held hostage by foreign entities, and you could manufacture in this country because the energy costs were down. We've done just the opposite, and we're transferring our vulnerability from fossil fuels. We were out of the vulnerability market to transferring in. We're becoming more vulnerable to China, who is positioning ourselves. I would not say they're our enemy, but certainly they're our adversary and hyper competitive. Could very well be our enemy.
No, absolutely. And I think that the world is looking at the USA right now. And if there was ever an opportunity to take any country or have any aggression, now is the time to do it. I mean, I said it the other day jokingly talking about the UFOs, but shoot, Congressman, if I were an alien and I wanted to take over Earth, I'd probably do it in the last 2 years, the Biden administration, because now would be the perfect time. While our administration is largely asleep at the wheel and our transportation secretary is worried about racist construction projects. The last thing that I want to ask you, because I want to provide a ray of hope. Let's say in 2024, we have a great Republican come into the White House. Is all of the damage that this administration done, is it reversible, and is it quickly reversible?
No, we're America, and all things are possible in this country. I would not even consider doing this job unless I knew it was absolutely 100% fixable. But, generals don't win wars. The front line does. And so in politics on the Hill, look, congressmen, we don't win the battles, it's the American people. And we all have to rise together and look at our problems, and we're going to have to solve them. But there's no problem I've seen that is out of the reach of a strong America, but we have to lead from the front. And when we fail to lead, bad things happen across the globe. We're witnessing it. And Ukraine, as an example, what's our plan? Has anyone heard an end state on Ukraine? So this war is being funded on the backs of U.S. taxpayers. And look, I've long been an advocate of John F. Kennedy's that we will pay any price, bear any burden to ensure the success and survival of liberty. Yes, but it's not a blank check. And everything we're sending over there, we're not controlling what, how it's used, where it's used, and where's the end state. And we are advancing it toe to toe to a possibility of a nuclear conflict over a blank check. So, this is just another long series. You look at baby food, toxic spills, Afghanistan, Taiwan, balloons. I mean, the list goes on of failures. Enough is enough. Congress has to unite. The House has to unite and hold this administration accountable by funding, by shedding light on investigations. We have Jim Jordan, who's in Comey's leading the investigations, fine men, patriots. On the appropriations side, we're going to curb the spending and bring these guys to task. But I think in 2024, America is waking up. The woke movement is perhaps a wake up of America. We're a great country, but you got to earn every yard. And lastly, the fight for freedom never ends. Never can you say we've won freedom, and you have to preserve it by maintaining it and fighting every day to make sure our freedoms live on for the next generation.
Well, I am very impressed with House Republicans and what you guys have been able to do in such a short time. Jim Jordan, you, others have been on the front lines of this, fighting the good fight for the American people who've largely lost a lot of hope and confidence in our government institutions. So thank you for all that you do. God bless Montana. Let's hope there are no more balloons or UFOs or whatever's flying overhead. Congressman, thank you.
I'm expecting to hear that from the president today, but you're absolutely, God bless America and God bless all those who defend her.
God bless you, and thank you so much for joining me, Congressman. Keep up the good work.
You too. Go get them.